This is Malik from Politico.com, and I'm joined with Roja Zala. He is the correspondent for the White House and State Department, and he is a Washington-based journalist. He joined with me to discuss a couple of questions on the top of the questions that I will ask him, then get him to ask more questions. But we know him from the Twitter that recently he got interacted with the president of Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Washington. It was in Washington, right? And with the on the
it was in Indonesia.
It was yeah. And then from there, I will ask a couple of questions regarding the issues that Turkey is doing in the region. So thank you very much, first of all, accepting my invitation. I know you're a very busy journalist, going back from the regions. So thank you very much for accepting our offer, our invitation for the Politurco.com. Raj, can you please go over your interaction with the Erdogan when he confused with the Turkish and Kurdish journalist, and what made you feel about that, and what was the reaction from your colleagues or overall your interaction with?
Well, thank you very much, Malik, for the opportunity. I'm very happy to be talking to you. So as you said, I'm a Kurdish and American. So I have, I'm Kurdish originally, but I'm an American citizen. So in the press conference for President Erdogan, that was in Indonesia in the G20 summit, I did preface my question with saying that I'm a Kurdish journalist based in Washington, D.C. He responded with, and I was listening, I can understand some Turkish, but couldn't understand everything. So I was listening to the translation in my ears. He said, I heard you are a Turk living in the U.S. I don't believe that. I think I was confused at the moment. I was like, what did I say that is racist or racism? So I've been talking to other people who have a lot better understanding of Turkish language and Turkish language, basically. There are two theories. Number one is that President Erdogan may have understood that I'm a Kurdish, but from Turkey, therefore he responds with, I heard you are Turk living in America. We are all Turkish citizens. We're all Turk living in America, living in other places. We're just Turkish citizens. That is one theory. But I think what really happened was there was a mistranslation in President Erdogan's ears. And the translator told President Erdogan that I was a Turk living in Washington, D.C. And he says, I don't believe that. I think you're a different race. But then he misspeaks. I think he meant to say irk, but he says irkçılı in Turkish. You probably know Turkish a lot better than I do. That is racism. So there was a lot of confusion. But regardless, he does kind of accuse me of being racist or practicing racism. So I've been receiving a lot of sympathy from friends, colleagues, people like yourselves, just because my question was not... it was not meant to be, offending President Erdogan. I asked President Erdogan, there are a lot of people who believe that Turkey is practicing an aggressive policy in the Aegean with Greece and Iraqi Kurdistan. We've seen Turkish bombing in Iraqi Kurdistan that killed civilians, killed Iraqi civilians, tourists coming from Baghdad and other parts of Iraq to Kurdistan region. And then they got killed there. And obviously the one in northeast Syria, in northern Iraq and northeast Syria, we still see Turkish bombings and threats of ground invasion. That has really caused a lot of fear and a lot of intimidation and fear, not only among civilians. Like a lot of people are worried that when is the next bomb going to fall on my house or someone else's house, some of my loved ones. So it is, whether you want it or not, an aggressive policy. And a lot of time, Turkey tries to justify it with concerns for security. If there are concerns for security, that's understandable. But concerns for security, they're not in civilian areas.
Raj, that was gonna be my next question. Actually, you already partly answered it, but you can be ahead of yourself and you can be ahead of me. So yeah, what do you see? What's going on all over impression in Washington that the recent Turkish airstrike, launching airstrike over the northern Kurdistan and Iraq, and then now Erdogan hinting then the ground operation. What do you see? What is the reaction overall? And how? My next question related with this question: how did Turkey bring the pieces from the Istiklal attack, and then scapegoating the Kurds, the YPG, which is the United States number one ally, defeating ISIS, especially the symbolic city in the Kobani. So give me those ideas and explanations, what's going on, and what is the overall reaction from Washington?
Right. Well, if we start from the Istiklal bombing, I think that kind of blaming the Kurds on Istiklal bombing is very, very weak in Washington and honestly in almost everywhere outside of Turkey. Inside Turkey, I'm not sure, but outside Turkey, almost it's clear that that bombing was used as an excuse, as a pretext to launch new offensives. And it was surprisingly coinciding right before the G20 trip that President Erdogan took, where he knew that he's going to meet with the Americans, with President Biden and with others, and to make a case for Turkey has security concerns and we do need to act on these security concerns. However, the type of the terrorist activity that was carried out, it just doesn't really add up. It just, at least that's the belief. As far as I've been talking to friends and colleagues, I don't think I see a lot of people believing that the YPJ or PKK or some other Kurdish faction were behind the bombing. But when it comes to Turkey, they
deny involvement so far. Nobody confirmed, right? They denied.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, not only they've denied it, but Mazlum Abdi, the SDF commander, says that she is highly linked to some of the groups. Her brother is involved in the groups that are fighting for Turkey in northwest Syria. So they are suggesting some other kind of arrangement between Turkey and some other group that may have been behind the bombing. Turkey may have known about the terrorist attack. They just didn't prevent it. But these are obviously theories. As far as I know, we don't know the facts around the bombing. Objectively speaking, but when it comes to colleagues and people, whether they believe that, I don't think there's a lot of support for what Turkey is claiming. There isn't a lot of, people don't really kind of buy that argument that Turkey is making. In Washington, I can say that there is a Turkey fatigue. There is a lot of tiredness of what Turkey is doing. Turkey with Greece, vis-a-vis the Kurds here and there. But they also understand that Turkey is an important ally. Turkey is needed, unfortunately, in current geopolitical international arena where the polarization is getting more and more deeper and deeper. Turkey is needed by Washington, by the Europeans. So a lot of time you see Washington kind of trying to appease Turkey. That's why we had in Iraqi Kurdistan, we had Iranian bombings and we had Turkish bombing. We hear 1, 2, 3 statements from the Americans on the Iranian one. They're calling it violation of Iraqi sovereignty. They're calling for immediate stop. But then when it comes to Turkey, although Brett McGurk also kind of said that they oppose any kind of offensive that destabilizes Syria. But at the same time, there's always this kind of one sentence at the end. We understand Turkish security concerns. And in Washington, I think there's a lot of feeling of blackmailing. Turkey is blackmailing the U.S. They have the NATO kind of thing with Finland and Sweden. There is the Turkish need. They have the Turkish need for fighting, or not fighting, but standing against the other blocs that the U.S. is not, allies with. But I believe personally there will be a point where this patience is just going to break, because we have a lot of congressmen that are openly speaking against these kind of behavior of the Turkish state. On the other side, I think, at least from people that I talk to, sometimes there's a hope that maybe after the election things will calm down. So we just have to wait and see how much Turkey is, causing trouble until the election is over, and then after the election, maybe things will change for better.
Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of experts who believe that even the opposition party in Turkey, they said this has nothing to do with the domestic politics. It is a security issue. But from the perspective, which is a well-known perspectives, they believe that it is domestically motivated, which is pre-election, that we have been seeing such attacks, before election in Turkey is a very common culture. And the image, the discourse, the idea, the symbolism that helping the AKP government to launch and using the military, the Turkish forces toward that. Do you believe that it is domestically motivated, galvanizing more vote pre-election? Is it like examples of the AKP?
I mean, unfortunately, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like, to be honest with you. This is not the first time. We've seen it in previous times when there is a concern for AKP's, election results. And then you see this rhetoric that's like more and more aggressive towards, the perceived enemies. The security concern that Turkey has been kind of just throwing out there, saying it right and left, it just doesn't look like something that a lot of people, at least in Washington, really believe that security concern. Security concern from northeast Syria, there hasn't been an attack emanating from northeast Syria. And that has been the answer in the past. Like, what security concern? There hasn't been a security concern or a threat from northeast Syria. And then we hear the Istiklal bombing. So I think that was an attempt to kind of refute that argument that, well, northeast Syria is not causing any security threats to the state of Turkey. And the Kurds in northeast Syria have been kind of clear on that. They have said in the past that we have no intention of causing or posing a threat to the Turkish state from northeast Syria. And then the recent bombing, if you look at it, it just doesn't. It's not trying to neutralize some sort of security concern, but it's attacking infrastructures. It's attacking civilian areas. According to the Kurds, that there have been civilians, killed in the past. We've seen Turkish bombing leading to death of teenage girls in schools, or at least that what the claim was. Like, there were UN-backed school where teenage girls were killed. So if it's a security concern, first of all, there isn't a lot of backup for that concern, and if it's not, there isn't a lot of backup concern, then the next step is to create one that looks like more legit. And I think this is what the understanding is now. Okay, Turkey is going to attack. It's not about security concern. It's just about some other reason. One of the other reason is that, yes, domestic consumption, domestic politics. Mm-hmm. The other might be just, a long-term, okay, Americans are supporting this Kurdish region. It's going to be a headache in the future. But to be honest, personally, I believe it's more short-term, where there is a concern for the elections, and then these kind of attacks help boost the nationalist kind of vote inside Turkey. And the easiest one to go for is the Kurds. It's not like the Greece, where if you start something with Greece, it's a much messier issue. But with the Kurds, you can drop a few bombs here and there and get some more votes and walk away with it. And unfortunately, that has been the case.
And do you see a lot of reaction from the part of the world, like the countries in NATO, like Germany, Russia, and United States? I mean, the part of the Iran, anyway, is another offensive on that. Is it satisfactory to see the reactions coming from those countries, or they just give a green light for Turkey to go even start with the ground operation? What do you how do you read that reaction from the part of everywhere coming from for this issue?
Honestly, the reactions are very, very weak. It raises question mark on almost everyone. A state like the United States. Or the one interesting thing about Washington and the United States, where I am based, where I'm more familiar with the politics there. When Donald Trump was in office, we all understood this is a transactional kind of governance administration. They want something in return for something. But then the Democrats came to power, and Democrats have been kind of boasting on their human rights records, how they protect human rights, minorities. They speak up for LGBTQI. They speak up for Uyghurs in China. They speak up for, so on and so forth. So you would see then, okay, this administration is not going to be as transactional as the previous one, but they have been doing the exact same thing. It's just they have kind of green-lighted a limited Turkish offensive. And I think that kind of explains the reaction from around the world and the Western world, basically. As long as it's a limited offensive, they don't make a lot of noise about it, because they need Turkey. They need Turkey because of immigration. They're worried about immigration, flow into Europe. They need Turkey for so many other reasons, for the grain deal, for Ukraine, for so on and so forth. So there's a lot of need. But as long as that Turkish offensive is limited, I think the West has an appetite to just turn an eye away from what Turkey is doing. However, if this escalates into a more kind of a bloodier, a messier war, then I would expect the U.S., the Western countries also to speak up. But as of right now, it doesn't look like it's enough for them to say, well, we need to say something or do something about it.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. And of course, you just mentioned about that Turkey is not using the spot attack on where is eliminating the places where they think that there's the attack coming from. The Turkey is also infrastructure, public and internal displaced places, the camps, which is in the Kobani, and that's also worrying. Actually, we will see maybe next days, because we just still don't see the consequences of the attacks. Thank you on that. I have questions from actually one of our political reader. I want me to ask you that how do you see the Turkey new diplomacy, which is Erdogan own diplomacy, going back to old enemies, opening the new page with Bashar Assad, which is he wanted to actually meet him, and he shook hand with Sisi, which he has been calling him as a cruel leader, undemocratic elected leader. Once he left the table because he was there with the European leaders, so he was very harsh on that. Now he made a very sharp and meet with him. Do you think that that's going to affect the region? What is a new operation, and what is that? So how do you see that?
Honestly, that's a very, very good question, a good point. I think President Erdogan is in a way very, very, very clever, very pragmatic when it comes to politics. They have enemies, no enemies. At some point when President Erdogan feels things are not going his way, then he's willing to turn to anyone. That basically is a good thing for President Erdogan, but it indicates something else. It indicates President Erdogan's plans have not been working as he wished them to work. So it shows a weakness in a way that his policies hasn't been working. So then he's trying to look to other places: Syria's Bashar Assad, Egypt's Sisi. The thing with this is, like, Mohammed bin Salman.
I mean, It just
Mohammed bin Salman, exactly, almost anyone,
just burned the
anytime.
Case, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So set aside all Khashoggi's issues and then meet with them. The thing is, it does show some frustration on the Turkish state and their policies that's not working. However, I think something like this would also be welcomed by Washington, I would assume, where Saudi Arabia and Turkish relationship is better. U.S. would probably welcome that. Egypt and Turkey, great. But when it comes to Syria, that's a very, very different question. U.S. has been very, very vocal about, countries trying to normalize relationship with Syria. Now, in the past, there were concerns of other Gulf states trying to normalize relationship with Syria. If a Gulf state normalizes relationship with Syria, it's a different matter. But a state like Turkey, at the second military in NATO, a very, powerful country, that will really upset a lot of people in the Congress and the Biden administration. And again, I think the way I see the Turkish-U.S. relationship, it just looks like a stick that's been really, really bent. It's just at the breaking point. One more thing here and there may just break that. However, it's also from the U.S. kind of side, there has been a lot of compartmentalization of policies. Okay, we disagree with you on this, but we can work with you on this. We can work with you on this one. I think normalizing the relationship with Assad will not benefit anyone. It will be harmful to everyone. And also the Europeans and the US will definitely recognize that, and they would probably react to that a lot stronger than Turkey dropping some bombs on the Kurds, because unfortunately, what it looks like is that Kurds are kind of expendable in this kind of game. You kill a number of Kurds, that's okay. Just don't do too much, because then if you do too much, it will embarrass us. Then we cannot, tolerate it. But as long as you do just enough to get your votes or to let out your frustration, that's okay. I don't think the normalization is, and also it has another component of it too, which is the Syrian opposition, and then the groups that have been backing Turkey. How will they react to that? What position that will put them in? It's just a lot of negativity that will bring to the region, and hopefully Turkey will start realizing some of the steps that they've taken. And a lot of time it's just they've been, this lens of anti-Kurdish has blurred Turkish vision. Hopefully they'll take that lens off and look at the region in a different way. Iraqi Kurdistan in the beginning, when in the 90s, Turkey was really, really worried about. Now, Iraqi Kurdistan, the government has been one of the allies of Turkey. We do not, threaten Turkish security. As a matter of fact, Iraqi Kurdistan sometimes even works with Turkey on certain areas. In the past, in Iraqi Kurdistan, we've also wanted that Turkey takes the domestic issues, the PKK issues, back to Turkey on both sides, but that hasn't happened. I don't want to go on this, but I think something like this would harm Turkish image and also the peace in the region.
All right, thank you very much. We are approaching our time, and maybe we can do the second, maybe meeting on that, maybe for more internal politics, like a Kurdish parties in Turkey. But you've been wonderful. Thank you answering my all questions from your heart, and also from the Washington perspective in terms of geopolitical issues. So thank you very much. I was with Raj and the Washington-based correspondent for the White House and the State Department from Ghouta, which is headquarters in Iraq. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
It was a pleasure, Malik. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye.